This is One on One, the Daily Items digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Our guest today is Penn-DOT Assistant Plans Engineer Matt Beck, interviewed by Justin Strawser.
Welcome to One on One. I'm Justin Strawser, and today our guest is Matt Beck, the Assistant Plans Engineer for Penn-DOT. Thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Sure, thanks for having me, Justin.
Whenever we're at these Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber transportation meetings, you're usually the one who updates members on the southern section. Before we get there, are you able to tell us anything about the northern section of the CSVT project?
Sure, I can give a brief update there.
Okay.
Construction of the northern section is proceeding well. The focus this year has been on constructing the new highway pavement on both ends of the river bridge that was completed last year in late 2020. So again, that work is focused on highway pavement this year. Next year, the final paving layer will be put across the entire northern section, and the other remaining items of work will be completed, like guide rail, lighting, signing and pavement marking, those types of things that are needed to ultimately have traffic driving on the new highway. And we expect that next year the northern section will be complete and open to traffic.
And that means that we're going to get to drive on it finally.
Correct, right.
That bridge is pretty impressive. Have you had a chance to get up there yet? Drive over it, anything like that?
Yeah, I spend most of my time in the office. I'm not one of our field staff members, but I was able to be out on the bridge last year during the next to last concrete pour for the deck. That was, I think, late last summer. So that was a nighttime concrete pour. They typically pour the concrete deck at night when the temperatures are a little bit more receptive to the concrete pours. So I was out there as the construction was being wrapped up, and then more recently this summer I was driving across it, checking out a few things as the highway pavement construction was proceeding this year.
Yeah, I have not had the pleasure yet. When Fred Keller was visiting, I think a year or two ago, I got a chance to get up right close to the beginning of it on both sides. So looking out across it was pretty cool. Does this take up most of your job, the throughway, or what are your other duties?
Yeah, this project's certainly what I spend the most time on. I do oversee a variety of other projects, though, located throughout our 9-county district. I work for District 3 of Penn-DOT that covers 9 counties in north central Pennsylvania, from Snyder and Northumberland in the south to Bradford and Tioga in the north. So there are various other projects at all times we have going on, and I'm involved in overseeing some of those as well.
And would you say by far this is the largest and most expensive?
Yeah, certainly in District 3, this is by far our largest active project at this point, and it's certainly one of the largest in the state too.
Yeah. Now take us through the southern section. I know you update, you give a lot of updates on permits and utilities. Where's everything stand right now?
So for the southern section of the project, and again, just to clarify, that's the section that will connect Route 15 just south of Winfield to routes 11 and 15 just north of Selinsgrove. For that section of the project, we continue to move forward with final design and the other items that we need to complete in order to start construction. So those items that need to be done before construction can start are permitting, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocations, and final plans preparation.
And you've talked about some of those permits. Can you go a little bit into what they are and where they stand?
Sure. So on the permitting side of things, that's one of those pre-construction items that we've wrapped up at this point. In August, we received the required waterway and wetland permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. And we also received the required NPDES permit from Pennsylvania DEP as well. Also, NPDES stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, and that permit relates to erosion control and stormwater management. So again, we received those permits from the environmental agencies in August, and that was definitely a major step towards starting construction on the southern section.
You mentioned right-of-way acquisitions, and I think you mentioned there property acquisitions, eminent domain. How has that process been? I know people get kind of antsy or worked up about it. Is there a lot of them that need to be settled still?
No, we're through the majority of the right-of-way acquisitions that are required. It was early this year that we finalized the right-of-way acquisition plans that define the exact areas of land and the types of easements that are needed to accommodate the various features of the project over the bulk of its footprint. So we've spent most of this year working through the appraisal and negotiation process with affected property owners. And at this point, we've settled about 80%, a little over 80% of the right-of-way claims required for the project.
When do you anticipate those other 20% getting settled?
Over the next couple or few months. That's the item that's really going to control the schedule to starting construction. But we expect within the next couple of months, those right-of-way claims should be settled, and we should have the right-of-way clearance to proceed with construction.
Okay, all right. So would you say that how close are you to an official path of the South?
Well, that alignment for the southern section of the project was really established in early 2019, or I should say it was finalized in early 2019 when we received the environmental clearance that was required from the Federal Highway Administration. So that was the point when the path or the alignment of the new highway was pretty much finalized. And since then, we've been working on final design details. So working out engineering details of things like stream culverts and drainage systems, the reconfigurations of the local roads that are required, the designs of the various bridges that are involved with the project. Those things and many others are all the different final design details that we've been working out since the alignment was established in early 2019.
You talk about the permits, a lot there. The permits being approved gets you one step closer to being able to bid out those documents, right? Bid out those specs.
Right. As I said, when we started talking about the southern section, to start construction, we need permits. We need right-of-way acquisition complete, arrangements for utility relocations finalized, and then final construction plans and bidding documents wrapped up. So permits are out of the way as of August. Right-of-way acquisition, like I said, is about 80% complete at this point. So the two other items there are utility relocations and final construction plans. Utility relocations are mostly wrapped up at this point. There are a variety of distribution lines for gas, sewer, water, and other facilities that we've mostly finalized arrangements with the affected companies on relocating those. Probably the biggest single remaining utility relocation that needs to be done is the relocation of several PPL electric transmission lines.
Okay.
PPL's plans are pretty much complete at this point, and work to relocate some of those lines should start late this year. So utility relocations are in pretty good shape. And then related to our construction plans and bidding documents, those are mostly wrapped up at this point. We're mostly working on refinements as we finalize the right-of-way and utility aspects of the project.
Okay. Is there anything that you learned building the north section so far that you're taking to the south? Any of those lessons carry over?
Yeah, there certainly are things that we've learned, such as the time frames for that will be required for the different operations. Um, in District 3, it's been a little while since we've had a project that involves this much earth moving. So the northern section has given us a pretty good handle on how quickly that can be accomplished. We also got a better handle on how long we should allow those areas of embankment to settle as the earthwork is completed before we start bridge construction on them. So I'd say those are two lessons that we learned related to the earth moving, which is going to be the focus of the southern section construction over the next couple of years.
Now, the southern section had some unique challenges in the, was it the acid rock?
Right. That was one of the geotechnical challenges that we've had to work through on the southern section. When the original alignment for the project was being laid out, about 20 years ago at this point, acid-bearing rock wasn't a major consideration at the time, but that's something that Penn-DOT has learned from experience on as part of the I-99 construction to the west of here. And as we got into final design of the southern section a few years ago, our final design soil borings found some geotechnical formations that have the potential to produce acid runoff if they aren't handled appropriately. So that's something that we spent a lot of time on during final design, is making sure that we have measures planned to prevent that production of acid runoff.
Are there any other unforeseen challenges that came with the southern section so far? With the design, I guess?
Yeah, the other major one that we ran into, I alluded to a little bit earlier, was the ash basins. Again, 20 years ago, roughly, it was thought that the new highway could be built across the ash basins that were the waste areas for the coal byproduct fly ash from the old power plant along the river. It was thought that fly ash would dry out over time and would stabilize and be able to support the highway. But when we did final design soil borings within the last few years, we found that wasn't the case. The ash did not dry out as we had planned, and it was still saturated, almost like a milkshake, we like to describe it, and we found that wasn't able to support the highway. So that led to a couple of years worth of studies to evaluate alternate routes, and it was in early 2019 that route was finalized. That's what I was alluding to earlier when I said the path was finalized in early 2019.
Has the pandemic provided any challenges for the project, whether it be supply chain or labor shortage or anything like that?
No, we've made out fairly well through the pandemic. On the design side of things, at least initially, as everyone was mostly working from home, things were a little bit less efficient. But we had for some time been used to coordinating amongst our design team or with other stakeholders virtually, and we pretty quickly got back to being as efficient, I think, as we had been in the past. So no major ramifications from the pandemic.
Good. So then the date that we're projected to open fully, then, is that still 2027?
Correct, 2027. Like we said earlier, we expect that next year the river bridge and the northern section will be open to traffic. So 2022 for the northern section, and we expect then the southern section will be done and open to traffic in 2027.
Barring or provided that there are no other unforeseen circumstances or anything like that.
Right. We certainly do have a long way to go, so that is a projection at this point, but we think that's a good target at this point.
Great. All right, well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Sure. Thanks again for having me, Justin.
Thanks for watching One on One. Be sure to tune in again for another edition.